Hello, hello. We are starting to go live on all channels right now. I hope you guys are doing well. Excited to be here. Hi, TikTok community. Hi, YouTube world. And we're going to go live on Instagram as well. Hope everybody is doing well. Happy, what day are we on? Tuesday. Happy Tuesday. That's right. So, you guys kind of know the drill, hopefully. We've done a few of these live sessions, and it's been so much fun to take your questions, share some information, really dig into the issues at hand. I'm happy to answer questions. We're going to go for about the next 15-20 minutes or so. But I wanted to start out and talk about something that caught my eye. It's actually not medical, and it's really bothering me. But before we get into all the heavy medical stuff, I don't know if you guys saw this. This Iranian soccer player has been sentenced to death for protesting against the regime of the Iranian government, with all the women, as you know, who've been out on the streets and really talking about how they have the right to not cover their heads if they want to. And this is horrific. People stand up and you're sentenced to death. This is a professional football player from Iran, a male. So if that's his sentence, can you only imagine what the women are going through? And so as a community of women, right, women all over the world, so many of you joined me from different parts of the world, I do think we need to continue to call attention to this and really continue to share it on our social media platforms, put pressure. The Iranian government cannot get away with this crap. This is not religious. It is not anything that is humane or right. And it really gets under my skin. So really bothered by that. I'm so upset by that, but I encourage each of you that are joining to share it, and let's continue to bring awareness to this issue and hopefully pray for strength for all the Iranian women that are living under this regime. I can't imagine what they're all going through on a regular basis. Speaking of which, if you've got a story of being oppressed or suppressed or having your rights taken away, and what that's done to your mental health, to your psyche, to your physical health, to how you take care of a family, and so much more, please share that with me. I think these are important stories to share. So many times I find myself in the exam rooms really trying to help my patients connect how we've got these 5 bodies, right? We've got a physical body, we have an emotional body, a spiritual body, a mental body. We have all these different bodies, and helping them connect how when there's injury at any level, it impacts everything. So for example, if you've been through trauma, if you have been through incredible grief, if you've been through life events that have really shaken you, it will show up in your physical body. So that's why Chinese medicine, Ayurvedic medicine, many of these systems of medicine talked about this over and over again, how it's all connected, and we see that. I think I've talked about this before. We see that especially in women where, for example, in Chinese medicine, they talk about the liver meridian. Well, the liver meridian runs right through the breast. The liver is where we store anger. It's where we store, deep trauma. And when that liver gets impacted and affected, 18 months later, 20 months later, we're dealing with something like breast cancer in women. So again, what the women in Iran are going through right now, I cannot imagine what the generational impact of their struggle will be for their children and for their children to come. But it is something that we can't just look away. Did you guys know, and I'm segueing off medicine, I'm so sorry, I'm going to come right back in just a minute. But did you guys know we look the other way with the Holocaust too? That we tried to justify it, that we tried to ignore it in this country and try to blame people, like say, well, the Jews kind of brought that on themselves. So it is a human response to not do that which is difficult or uncomfortable or sometimes right. And I definitely don't want that happening again, at least on our watch. So again, spread the message, understand the connection, and then for each of you individually bringing that story back to you, how is some of this impacting you and your health? Maybe not the Iranian crisis, but maybe a trauma you've been through, a struggle you've been through, something that truly rocked your world and rocked your boat, and how that in turn impacts your health. PTSD shows up in the body as inflammation, as high cortisol, as hormone disruption, as estrogen dominance, all these things that I talk about kind of in a functional medicine way. but it's real and we get to see it in practice every single day at Center Spring MD, and we need to start talking about this more. Okay, moving on. Let's talk about something else. Real quickly, for those of you struggling with PCOS, did you follow Keke Palmer's story on trying to get pregnant with PCOS and how difficult her fertility journey was and continues to be? She's pregnant, thankfully, but again, like her, so many young women, anywhere from 18, I would say younger actually. My daughter who's 15, we were talking about this today, from 14, 15 all the way through their 30s, go walk around undiagnosed with PCOS, and they don't realize that in turn is going to impact their ability to get pregnant. So, PCOS is probably not a great name, polycystic ovarian syndrome, right? So everyone thinks I have to have cyst on my ovaries. I have to have this classic telltale, very overweight, hair loss, all these things to truly have a diagnosis of PCOS. Now, nothing could be further from the truth. The new recommendations and guidelines for PCOS really talk about all the variations of PCOS, variations again by ethnicity, by age, by so many different factors. And one of those things are that PCOS is actually a metabolic disease. It's a disease of insulin resistance, a disease of liver toxicity. And when we think about PCOS that way, then maybe we're able to turn it around for everybody, including people like Keke Palmer and so many other celebrities that have stepped out and talked about it. So again, managing your blood sugar, managing insulin, really bringing those insulin levels down. And if you are suspicious that you have PCOS, right, you're having trouble getting pregnant, you are having very painful periods, menstrual cramps, all those type of things, you've done a pelvic ultrasound, maybe you have cysts, maybe you don't, well then focus on the insulin resistance component of it, because that in turn is what's blocking you probably from fertility. So really helping your body metabolize estrogen, optimize thyroid function, and then doing things that bring insulin levels down. There's a whole natural toolbox to help bring insulin levels down. That includes everything from a high protein diet to getting in the right probiotics to manage the gut microbiome, and in turn to also getting in some natural herbs like berberine, for example, is one of my favorites. It's almost like a natural metformin, helping to lower insulin. Inositol is another one. That's a great one too for helping to balance insulin as well. So those are things you can start to do to really help put your head around this insulin issue and bring insulin levels down if you've got PCOS. Now, PCOS could be its own probably year-long video series. I won't bore everybody on here today with PCOS information, but I thought that was something to note as well because that came up in the news recently. All right, I wanted to talk about 2 more studies and then we can maybe take some questions. So vitamin D deficiency linked to muscle loss. Well, we know muscle loss is a big issue for people over 40, a bigger issue, right, when you're over 60 or 70, but a fundamental part of that muscle loss is connected to vitamin D deficiency. Now, here's the catch. Well, you're thinking, okay, I'm just going to pop some vitamin D. But vitamin D, remember, is a fat-soluble vitamin. So if your gut's not working really well, if you're not able to metabolize fats or break fats down effectively, then we know metabolizing vitamin D is going to be difficult. You're going to have low vitamin D levels in addition to low fat-soluble vitamin levels in general. And then again, one more factor contributing to muscle loss. Why is muscle loss important? Well, muscle is an endocrine organ and it regulates blood sugar, it regulates insulin. So we're right back to talking about insulin, which I feel like I end up talking about all the time, quite honestly. I feel like almost everything winds me back to blood sugar and to insulin levels. So this is another case where we need to be focused on muscle mass, on vitamin D, but on gut health, because that at the end of the day is ground zero for your health, right? So everyone following me, Eastern concept, East, West, sort of merging medicine together, fundamental concept, men, women, children, elderly, everybody, is that the gut is ground zero for your health. And then it starts to fractionate out depending on who we're talking to, right? So in the kids, poor gut health shows up as sensory issues, ADD, ADHD, even autism. All of these things are gut issues. In women, we see the hormone fallout, inflammatory fallout, weight gain, autoimmune diseases, and so much more. And in men, very much the same. And across the board, everyone, the mental health fallout of poor gut health. So again, connecting those dots is so important to me, and I hope that makes sense to you, but it does all connect together. And that is truly where I get a lot of joy, is in helping people connect their puzzle pieces, developing their own personal map, their body map, and understanding how all the different planes of the bodies also connect. And so your life is very much determined by the interaction of all those different factors. Okay, let's talk about one more and then we will move on to questions. COVID. I thought that was a story of the past, but COVID continues to show up, right? It's like the bad boyfriend that won't go away. So COVID now linked to something called POTS syndrome, postural orthostatic hypotensive tachycardia. POTS is real. We see it a lot in practice. It goes undiagnosed for a very long period of time, but it is characterized by blood pressure instability and sort of overall mineral imbalances that leave someone getting dizzy, dropping their blood pressure without warning, having fainting spells, being super tired, super fatigued. Well, new study came out just very recently talking about the link between COVID and POTS. So COVID, like many other viruses, but COVID in particular, appears to be a trigger for POTS syndrome. And we are seeing this. If you, like me, are a parent of a teenage girl, we're seeing POTS a lot in our teenagers. So something to be very, very much on top of for your children, but even for yourself. So here are some of the symptoms: fatigue, lightheadedness, brain fog, memory issues, feeling shaky, having headaches, nausea, and vomiting. So again, how do you treat POTS? Well, here's the problem. It's hard to diagnose and it's hard to treat. The diagnostics is really someone having like sort of orthostatic episodes, meaning when they go from standing to sitting, there's a big drop in their blood pressure. They do tilt table testing. That's one of the ways to diagnose it for sure. And then the treatment is hydration, which is so frustrating. So the treatment is staying hydrated, keeping blood sugar stable. Here's the blood sugar conversation again, but keeping blood sugar stable, so eating every 3 to 4 hours, taking in electrolytes, making sure we're getting good consistent sleep, focusing on protein, and then if none of that is working, there are medications that help to stabilize POTS. One of them is called it's a fludrocortisone. Basically, it's like almost like a cortisone product, but it helps to stabilize some of this mineral imbalance that's happening with POTS syndrome. So we do see a lot of POTS at Center Spring MD. So if you or someone you know is having an issue, we'll be happy to see you there. But again, the link between COVID is a new one, and it could be why we're seeing so much more POTS than what we saw in the past. Now, COVID, of course, remember, again, long COVID linked to brain fog, memory loss, mood disorders, fatigue, so much more. And I'm seeing it in the kids. Just had a patient recently that almost had to drop out of their first quarter of high school because post-COVID, it triggered an autoimmune response. They ended up with full-blown Hashimoto's thyroid issues, couldn't perform in school, falling asleep all the time, and ended up losing the first quarter of their freshman year. So this is a big issue. We think it's just for adults or for the elderly, but it is for kids and it's for all of us for sure. Okay, so that's what caught my eye this week. That's kind of what was on my mind. Let's see what's on your mind and take a few questions. I got my trusty team standing in the league, and you're a diabetic. You don't want to fast, period, end of story. Because you've got so much blood sugar instability with both of those conditions. Adrenal fatigue, remember, is going to send your cortisol all over the place, get your blood sugar all over the place. Diabetes, we already know that's an issue with blood sugar management. So fasting is not a great, really a great way to go about resetting your gut health. I would say choose an anti-inflammatory diet instead, eat at regular intervals, and if you are going to take a break from eating, it should be no more than about 12 hours. All right. Next question.
This one is from Instagram, and it says, Dr. Taz, will alkalization kill most, if not all, viruses and bacteria, or we call microbes. Thank you.
So alkalinization, oh, it's a hard word
I
to
know.
say. Alkalinization, say that 10 times. So becoming alkaline, right, which means setting your pH away from being acidic, is one way to keep your body free of viruses and bacteria. It's certainly not foolproof. It's certainly not magic. It definitely helps. The more alkaline you are, you keep things like viruses and bacteria at bay. But you can be alkaline and be super stressed out and still get sick. You can be alkaline and have a weak immune system and get sick. So, you know, it is something to help. I don't want to put everything into it, but it's definitely helpful. All right, let's do a couple more.
Advice for help with vestibular migraines.
Vestibular migraines. Okay, that's a tough one. So migraines that are accompanied by changes in proprioception, meaning you're getting dizzy a lot. You probably feel like your balance is off. Migraines in general are coming from, it sounds like a broken record, but are coming from the gut. And so what you want to do is first clean up your gut health, maybe add in magnesium and electrolytes and see if that helps to stabilize, and try acupuncture. Acupuncture is wonderful for migraines, even vestibular migraines for sure.
Is DIM helpful for PCOS?
DIM, all right, great one. DIM, everybody familiar with DIM? Have you guys heard about DIM before? So DIM actually comes in a supplement form and breaks estrogen down. If your PCOS pattern, remember there are multiple patterns to PCOS, but if your PCOS pattern is one of estrogen dominance, then DIM is indeed a good fit. What I like to do with DIM is sort of cycle it. So take it days 1 through 14 of your cycle, take a break from it, and then bring it back in again. Otherwise, sometimes we found in practice that we are dropping estrogen levels too low. All right, let's do one more and then we'll stop.
Does apple cider vinegar cause high histamine?
Apple cider vinegar is one of my favorites. So apple cider vinegar by itself is not the cause of high histamine. But if you've got MCAS, right, mast cell activation syndrome, or you already have a high histamine load, there are many people that don't tolerate the vinegar. It's just too strong, it's too much for them. Vinegar helps to lower yeast or candida in the gut. A lot of times histamine is coming from too much yeast in the gut. So apple cider vinegar indirectly is helping, honestly, the histamine response, but it depends on where you are on that spectrum. If you think of your health on a spectrum and you're having a massive histamine problem, and maybe apple cider vinegar is a little bit too harsh for you, I've got in here my lemon ginger water. That's what I use instead, just because I like the taste better and it keeps me energized throughout the day. So maybe start there before you jump to apple cider vinegar and water. All right, I'm going to stop there. I am so grateful for all of you. Thank you for following me and following along. Again, this is your platform. So if there are topics that need to be addressed, questions you have, please feel free to reach out and we'll do videos or take more lives on them, whatever it is. And I want to remind you guys that you have access to me when you join my Superwomen Circle. The link we have is there in the bio on all the channels. And in the circle, we coach. I do coaching, group coaching once a month. We do webinars, recipes. There's a lot of great tools on the dashboard. For those of you that are in the circle, you can let everybody know about that. But I encourage you guys to all join the circle. And we really want to hear your stories. So if you've got a story that you would like to come on camera and share, then please DM me. It's either DM me on any of these channels or email me. It's hello@drtaz.com. That's hello@drtaz.com. Think about a story that's going to inspire others. And if you think your message will help others, or if you just need help yourself, let me know and we might bring you on air. All right, I'll see you guys next time. Take care.